Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. We are getting started today with our Total Wellness Tuesday show, where we will be going over the topic of how stress lowers your immune system and actually causes dis-ease in the body. So one of the reasons why I want to go over this topic today is obviously it is timely with many of us doing everything we can in order to keep a nice, healthy, strong immune system. But even if you yourself have a strong immune system, that you don't typically get sick too often, that you recover quickly, and that you are disease-free right now, what I would like you to do is pass on this information. So basically learn it, be able to summarize it, and then share that information, if not the show, with someone else. And that's because many of our parents or grandparents need this information. They need to know what leaves them susceptible, and that it's not just about diet, it's not just about exercise, that actually your mind does matter in terms of your overall immune system and staying disease-free. So if you're someone that worries a lot, that you have a lot of anxiety, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of fear, that you're in a low mood, depressed, I'm telling you right now that mind is connected to the body. As much as conventional medicine tries to say that your psychology does not affect your physiology, today I'm actually going to share with you 3 studies. There's so many studies I could give you. Honestly, it's not difficult to find these. I don't have a special computer or a special internet source. You are able to find these, and they're actually very well done. One of the studies that I'll share with you, and again, this is all conventional medicine based, right? This is not something that just naturopaths have or integrative health practitioners, etc. But what I'm going to share with you is actually a meta-analysis of 30 years of how psychological stress affects the human immune system. And again, it's 84 pages. Anybody can read this. Lots of great graphs. You don't have to, but I do want you to know that the information you get on the Cabral Concept is corroborated with medical science. Now, I'm not afraid to use all of the best of Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, bioregulatory medicine, Eastern-based philosophy, you name it. Again, I'll use it as long as it helps people to live their best life, get healthier, rebalance their body, improve their hormones, all of that, right? And lead to anti-aging as well. So, but here's the thing, it's always grounded in scientific studies. So that just means that for me, I'll look at everything. Like what's the best right now for people with COVID-19 in terms of conventional medicine care if you're in the hospital. Now, if you're not in the hospital, you may not need that care. You can simply boost your immune system and use all of the different techniques and protocols that we use in order to fight off viruses naturally. Again, but if you need acute care, who's to say that you can't get acute care-based treatment? Of course, not me. I actually recommend it because your life is at stake. If your life is ever at stake, you make sure that you do whatever you need to in order to get well again. And then after that, okay, then we'll go on working in that immune system and strengthen your body overall so that if you were to get a terrible virus, well, your body knows how to fight it off naturally because you're balanced. That's what it's all about. So stress is a big part of that. And I have something called the de-stress protocol. I talk about it all the time on the podcast. I wrote a book called The Rain Barrel Effect. It's in the Rain Barrel Effect book. That book is almost free. There's a small charge for it on Amazon or at equilibriumnutrition.com. And all profits go to charity, 100%. So what we do is we try to spread this concept that disease, that's why conventional medicine will never figure it all out. Because they look at disease as a silver bullet-based mentality. So here's the thing. One cause equals one effect. Well, that's not how it works. If you have an autoimmune disease, I'll be talking a little bit about that later. It's not from one thing, I'll tell you that. There's just not one thing that creates that autoimmune-based disease because your body's able to overcome one thing. It's multiple things that will lead to cancer, autoimmune, and many of the issues that people are dealing with right now. So when I wrote the book, The Rain Barrel Effect, it was simply to teach people how they got to where they are today, and how they can get well again. And that's by emptying your rain barrel. And it's by working on not just any diet. Like that's the thing is like you need a specific protocol. So it's a specific diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest with a sleep protocol, emotional balance, toxin removal if I didn't say it, supplement protocols, and success mindset. Supplements is only one part of it, but it's crucial when your body's in balance because your body is no longer strong enough to shift itself back into balance. Now, it was maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but now it's kind of losing that battle. Well, give it a little bit of support, get it back there, and then you can wean off the majority of those supplements. And I mean, again, Ayurveda has been doing this for 6,000 years. They had herbs back then. Guess what they used? Herbs, right? Why would they ever say no? They're given the best of nature. Nature says, listen, you can use this phosphatidylserine to reduce stress. You can use this L-theanine inside of different herbs to reduce stress. We're going to do that. Oh, these foods are higher in magnesium. Okay, we'll use those too. So that is what Ayurveda was able to do. Same for TCM, etc. The nice thing is, though, we can use the best of everything. And also, believe me, we've got a lot more stressors in our life right now. There are major stressors back 6,000 years ago. But trust me, we are in a world of much, much stress. It's not quite a simple life right now, right? It's not just about food, shelter, water, to stay alive. It's about all sorts of other stressors as well. So let's get into it now, because I want people to know that 90% of all disease in the world has stress as one of its core fundamentals. So most MDs will never say this, but again, it's only because they haven't been trained specifically in it. It's not their fault. They haven't done anything wrong. It doesn't make them bad. But if they're not taught it, well, they are taught it actually, because every doctor, whether you are a naturopathic doctor, medical doctor, chiropractor, or I was going to say, I don't know why the name has escaped me right now, doctor of osteopathy, okay? Doctor of osteopathy, you study immunology. So you have to study immunology, and it's a big course, and it's a big textbook with really small print and a lot of different charts, and you have to know it inside and out. But the truth is that sometimes, unless you're specializing in this area, you kind of forget about it. You don't really talk and think about all the different interleukins and lymphocytes, and I don't want to go through all of that today, but I want you to know that every doctor is taught this. But the problem is it's not always implemented because for the most part, a conventional medicine doctor has to give you, okay, here's the pharmaceutical drug that lines up with your autoimmune disease, like let's say psoriasis or rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, you're going to get your Plaquenil, you're going to get your Remicade, whatever it might be for that specific disease. But in natural health, we know that this disease came about through a series of imbalances that if we were to rebalance the body, if we were to take care of those underlying root causes, there would be no imbalance. And if there's no imbalance, how does the disease exist? Well, it doesn't, right? It can't. You can't get a disease out of nothing. A disease is literally a dis-ease of the body, right? Something's out of ease, something's out of balance. We can fix that, and we can do it without masking the symptoms. Well, one of those things that we really need to do is work on stress, because stress does lower the immune system. So I'm going to teach you exactly today, right now, how that happens. And again, why I think this is important is that if you know the why, you're more likely to better take care of the how it happens. But if you don't know, then you say, oh, you'll just dismiss it, right? Most people just dismiss it. Oh, whatever, everybody's stressed. There's no such thing. Well, there is. So as we get stressed, we actually begin to weaken two main and specific parts of our immune system. The first part was, let's just talk about lymphocytes, okay? These are B cells, these are T cells. Let's talk about B cells just for a second. They help to produce antibodies. And antibodies help kill what? Antigens, or they help to remove them, or they help to stop them from replicating like a virus. Your lymphocytes should be able to do that through B cells. And then T cells, we'll talk about T cells today as well. I have a podcast coming up in a couple weeks on Th2, T helper cell 2s, and Th1, right? I'll talk about Th2 versus Th1 immunity, Th1 being more of autoimmune issues, and Th2 being more chronic immune issues like allergies and asthma, etc., more inflammation. So very different. They produce, there's something called CD4 and CD8 cells, and they basically attack invaders or antigens or bacteria, etc., inside the cells and outside the cells, and they mark them differently. So you don't need to get too deep on how that works. Just know that there's main types of immune cells, white blood cells, and the two types of white blood cells would go towards lymphocytes and phagocytes. And this helps to basically break down, think of it as invaders into the body, bacteria and yeast and fungus and mold and viruses, anything that isn't human, that shouldn't be there, that's not innate to our body, or that begins to overgrow. And the other thing that you should know is that these immune cells, there's billions of them, they can go inside of cells, they can travel outside of cells, they can actually move into your gut and fight things in your gut, causing inflammation, right? We know that a lot of times as celiac disease, but there's all sorts of different variations of celiac disease, right? You don't have to be diagnosed with celiac disease in order to have IBS or IBD, right? Inflammatory bowel syndrome or inflammatory bowel-based disease or any type of digestive-based issue, right? So we can get those cells, immunoglobulins and other types of cells moving right into our gut, and they can be attacking things right there. So this is why it's important to know that your immune system is always trying to work for you, but conventional medicine will tell us that it's somehow malfunctioned. Well, not necessarily. It can be overactive, that's for sure, but you have to ask yourself, why is it overactive? It's not overactive for no reason. There's a reason for it to be overactive. Whether it's something called molecular mimicry, which I've said before, which is your body's exposed over and over to this antigen that it should not be in your body, right? And then all of a sudden your body continues to produce those cells and produce those cells to kill it and fight it off. And sometimes it kills other things in the body or goes after other things in the body that look similar to the antigen itself, the invader. Or what happens is that invader actually locks onto a thyroid gland or joints like in rheumatoid arthritis. And now your immune cells are actually starting to break down that tissue with the invader attached to it. So again, we're learning all of this in modern day science. And it's really just showing us that the immune system is not messing up, but it can be overtaxed and overwhelmed. And what happens now in stress is this. There's good research that shows under acute base stress, you actually get a boost in the immune system. And this is a survival-based technique. It was written about quite succinctly a number of years ago. I know that Stanford University, and it was an article that I was reading. I'll see if I can go back and find it. All the research and links today, I'm going to link up for you at stephencabral.com/1544. stephencabral.com/154 will be all of these studies. I won't repeat that too many more times. So basically under acute-based stress, it could be surgery that you're going through. It could be an animal based in the wilderness and they're worried about being attacked or they were attacked and they were cut. Well, what happens is in the short term, epinephrine, which is a trigger from the HPA axis, that means under stress, your fight or flight, your body produces epinephrine. Think of it as like adrenaline. And the body actually mobilizes, it gets moving, it really kicks on those monocytes, type of immune cell, and neutrophils. And then it says, okay, let's now produce more cortisol. And we start to get those lymphocytes going. So in the short term, our body under acute stress, that means a short-term stressor, will actually kick up the immune system to help to go after a virus, a bacteria, etc. And it will also help to begin to heal the body. That's normal. That makes total sense. And if people have studied the Wim Hof method before, you'll see actually experiments that Wim Hof has done in order to get his body into this fight or flight based stage. And he'll actually show that his body, because of the extra production of epinephrine, helped to fight off a lot of these things he was exposed to. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I tell people that. But remember, there's always two sides to every coin. Because chronic immune stimulation then weakens the immune system. So what if you were to stimulate every single day? Stimulate that immune system. What happens? Well, you begin to what? Well, you begin to become weakened. Think about running a marathon every day. How long could you do that for? Well, the best endurance ultramarathoners in the world, maybe they could do that for a year. Maybe they could do it for 2 years. I know a monk, I've read a story about a monk that did a marathon every single day. Believe me when I tell you, even with the best form, your knees are going to break down. The cartilage, the articular cartilage around those joints is going to break down. Your hips are going to begin to break down. You're going to become more catabolic. And eventually you won't be able to do it anymore. And guess what? After that, you're going to be in a world of hurt. There's a finite period of time that your body can compensate. And stress is a compensator. Now, I'm talking about chronic stress. When you are chronically stressed, your body is then this is what's going to happen. Your innate immunity, your Th1 cells, your Th1 system of the immune system begins to become lowered. That's what happens. We don't adapt to stress as well. Our immune system doesn't adapt to seeing all of these invaders come in. It allows more pathogens to come in. Might be parasites. It might be bacteria. It might be yeast. It might be mold. It might be fungus. What happens is this actually triggers what's called a TH2 mediated immune response. In many people, not everyone. Again, people are definitely genetically predisposed to one side or the other. For example, in my family, my dad is more TH1 immune dominant. My mom more TH2 immune dominant. I got the TH2 immune dominance, for sure, no doubt about it. In my family, my wife is TH1 immune dominant. I'm, again, TH2 immune dominant. There's no discrepancy there. We're not related by blood. That's just not how it works. And so we'll see, what my girls may lean towards. We're trying to really make sure that they don't have any antibiotics. We're trying to make sure that they're exposed to just playing outside and being exposed to all of those things. But no doubt about it, they'll lean one way or the other. If I just had a guess at this point, my oldest daughter, 7 years old, leans towards what my wife is, which is TH1 dominant. And then my youngest daughter probably leans more TH2 dominant. I'll talk about why in the future. Again, I'm going to do a show on TH1, TH2 immunity and just show you kind of what shows up if you're imbalanced. And most of us lean one direction or the other. Not everybody, though. The goal is to be balanced. Like, even though I'm TH2 immune dominant right now, I'm not suffering from one thing or the other because my body's balanced. My body's healed right now. But if I did get something that, I would sway more towards the TH2 mediated dominance. And again, I'll explain that. Okay, here's the problem though. Chronic stress over time also increases inflammation. Now, this is important too because we say that stress is implicated in 90+% of all disease in the body, right? Well, so is inflammation. People are always like, we just have to lower inflammation. Let's just use all these anti-inflammatories. Okay, fine in the short term if we need to. Like in something, again, like COVID-19, it's starting to shut down the body. Well, what do we need to do? Well, we might need to use something like a hydroxychloroquine in order to reduce inflammation from an immune-mediated response. Okay, I can get behind that if we need to do it in the short term. Should we be putting people on that for months or years? My recommendation would be no, because there's a super compensation there, right? So let's figure out why. Why was this person so susceptible? And again, we don't always know because we're not able to always peer back in the body. But what I can tell you is this, for sure, we can figure out what predisposed them. Gut-based issues, toxicity, that goes with heavy metals, that goes with stress, it goes with sleep, it goes with diet, it goes with exercise, because we need to figure out how that person became imbalanced. And one thing I do want to do right now is I'm going to sum this up with two studies as well, is that when we are under stress, very simply put, our body says, okay, you're under stress. We need to survive. I'm going to speed up the body's fight or flight based system called the sympathetic nervous system, right? So I've talked about this before. In the periphery, outside of you, inside of you, your brain recognizes as stress. It says, okay, hypothalamus, gland inside the brain, tells the pituitary gland, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys, to produce epinephrine, norepinephrine. We're going to get that adrenaline going, which is going to what? Speed up the heart rate, improves blood flow. So you're ready. If you need to fight, you're ready to go. If you need to run away, you're ready to go. It increases blood pressure. Then it starts to weaken things. And we've talked about this before, so I'm not going to go through all of that today, but weakens digestion, etc. So you are good to go. And then right after that norepinephrine and that adrenaline get pumping, it says, all right, now we need some fuel. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to produce some cortisol, a glucocorticoid. So it's going to allow us to break down glycogen stored somewhere in the body, maybe the liver, maybe from amino acids in the bloodstream, whatever we need. But we're going to make sure that we get a fast fuel source, and that's sugar. So I apologize to all the people who believe that you only can run on one fuel source or another. Believe me, when your body needs glucose, it will get glucose. There's no doubt about it. You can't deny it at all. You can be in a state of ketosis. I'll put a continuous glucose monitor on you, and I will show you how your body will spike in blood sugar, whether from a really hard workout or from a really high heat exposure or from, many, many different things, right? A strong cup of, let's say, 400, 500 milligrams of caffeine. I don't recommend that, but you'll see that blood sugar spike, and that's because there was a spike on the HPA axis, which is simply put your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis, right? So here's what happens, though. Cortisol, when it starts to be produced, begins to lower lymphocytes in the long term. Chronic cortisol production lowers your lymphocytes, lowers your white blood cells, and it leads to more chronic inflammation. Well, now this can lead to what? Higher cholesterol without a poor diet, a higher blood pressure without a poor diet. That's what we have to understand, is that stress can not only lead to a weakened immune system, but it can absolutely lead to disease. It doesn't have to be the silver bullet. Typically, it's in conjunction with multiple other things. But let me just give you just two quick studies right here. One, and I'll link these up for you. They did it with medical students during final exams. Now, again, medical school, pretty stressful, no doubt about it. Some people might not feel it's stressful, but they are far and few between. So what they did was they simply did a blood draw before finals and then during finals or after finals. And they found that those people who had the highest stress score in terms of how they felt, well, had higher levels of immune cells. And also those before and after, those who weren't even as stressed, had more than double. So these stressed students had more than double the signs of a weakened immune system, which in this case was actually less immune cells produced. Okay, so that was really interesting. Another study showed this. This was very fascinating to me because I actually didn't believe, well, I shouldn't say I didn't believe, but I didn't really think that they would do this. But here's what happened. So they looked at this. They looked at a study showed how long-term stress really weakens the immune system and increases your odds of catching a cold. And that can be a virus or it can be a bacterial-based cold, okay? So scientists, they looked at 176 men and women. And they looked at basically difficult experiences they've had over the past 12 months. And they said, well, if this person's stressed, we put them in this category. And this person's not stressed, well, they're going to be in this category. These are quizzes. I teach this inside of the Integrative Health Practitioner. I teach the quiz that shows who's most likely to get a sickness or cold or disease in the next few months. And I even talk about this a little bit in the rain barrel effect, but there's basically three triggering events. There's genetics, then there's environment, filling up the rain barrel, and then there's a triggering event. Well, I mean, some people are going through a breakup, they're selling their home, they might go back to school, like all these different things. Some can be good and some can be bad. Those people are under greater stress. Well, here's what they found. Here's what they did, and this was interesting to me. They actually put drops of a virus into their nasal passage. So they just put them, again, that's where the most people get a virus. They touch their nose. The average person, I believe the study I said, they touch their nose 5 times an hour. That's a lot. And so we're touching our nose and we can get a virus in there. Well, in this study, they actually put the virus right in their nose, the common cold virus. And then they checked back and they said, who got a cold and who didn't? Because remember, and again, I try to share this with people, not everybody gets the symptoms of a cold even though they were exposed to it. Yeah, you're going on an airplane. People are sneezing and coughing. Some people get sick, some people don't. They were all exposed to it. Why did some people not? Well, it showed that those under stress were twice as likely to develop a cold. And a second experiment confirmed that the inflammatory response feeds off stress. So pretty interesting to me. I look at this and say, absolutely, of course, right? Because we know the mechanism. We know that the body under chronic stress suppresses the immune system. And it leaves people now more susceptible to not getting the virus. Remember, like a lot of people don't understand this about viruses. And again, this is not common knowledge. One of the ways that you build up your immune system is being exposed to viruses. That's how it works. But not everybody suffers all of the symptoms that put them in a hospital. Believe it or not, with COVID-19, 70% to 80% of the people were asymptomatic. That means they never knew they had it, okay? They didn't know they had it at all, or they got mild symptoms such as a little fatigue, a little run down, a minor cough, or a headache. And that's what we want. Because remember, the sickness we get is not the virus itself. It is the healing response to the virus. Our body creates the fever to fight the virus. Let's not forget that. Our body and our immune system creates the response we feel. So now what's our job? Well, our job is this. If we are under stress, we need to begin to get everything else back in check. So I'm not going to go through all of that because I'm already at my time for today. But if you go to stephencabral.com/virus, the very first video, well, you know what? I'm going to make it easier for you. stephencabral.com/virus is where I'm putting all my viral videos. But just in the very first video I did, and I know it's going to say that the COVID-19 is not as big of a threat as people saying it is. By the way, that holds true to this day. But I said it before it even started. I said I will always check in with you as it grows. Now, again, keep in mind today it's at about 2.5 million cases around the world. So it's not like I'm saying it's a minor thing. I'm not saying that at all. I don't want to discount that. But again, what I said back then is this is where we're at in this moment. Let us not fear. Let us not panic. We're going to get through this. But what I do during that video is I simply talk about the de-stress protocol in terms of boosting the immune system. So I still think it's valuable information. Please don't come down on me because it was the very first video before COVID-19 ever started to really even hit the United States. Okay, so all right, that's that. But what I want you to do is, in terms of stress, I have many different podcasts on this. Reducing stress is about feeling that you're in more control of your environment, your life, etc. And it's about reducing stressors that are causing you to not feel in control. Now, I know easier said than done, but I can't give you the exact method. I've done many podcasts on many of these different things, but you have to understand that your coping mechanisms for stress are very different from individual to individual. And I just hope that stress, though, doesn't have a secondary effect, which is extremely negative, which is like poor eating or poor sleep. That's why stress can have massive secondary health issues with diet, with exercise, with sleep, because the stress could cause dysfunction in any one of those areas. But coping mechanisms could be meditation. Some people enjoy it, some people don't. Well, if you're not going to do it, it's not helpful, right? It's certainly helpful only if you do it, though. What about exercise? What about walking? What about massage? What about sauna? What about binaural beats, therapy, or counseling? So remember, you need to figure out what are the coping mechanisms, the healthy coping mechanisms that work best for you. So the first thing is just recognizing that stress is absolutely a factor with our dis-ease in the body and the weakening of the immune system. And the second is don't pretend it's not there. While you are stressed, work on the other things that you can control. So it's why we've been telling people, and I think we've had really great success with this. Boost your immune system. Boost your immune system during cold and flu season. Boost your immune system when you're being exposed to viruses. Use your vitamin C, use your zinc, use your vitamin D, use melatonin if you need it, and then use your daily foundation protocol level 2. It doesn't have to be difficult, and honestly doesn't. And then if you feel yourself getting sick, you feel yourself getting run down, then bring in the heavy hitters. That's when you bring in things like the colloidal silver, the licorice root, maybe using monolaurin, maybe you're using L-lysine. Use that when you are getting run down or sick, or when you get that herpes virus, whatever it might be. You don't necessarily need to do it every day. I actually don't believe that you should be stimulating every day. Now remember, vitamin C is not stimulatory. Vitamin D at 4,000, 5,000 IUs a day, not stimulating. Melatonin at low dose, not stimulating, right? A zinc, not above 50 milligrams a day, not stimulating. So this is what I'm saying. You can do things on a daily basis to boost the immune system without stimulating it. It just means that you are building up your reserves. If it's called on, if it's needed, you are ready. So I will link that up. It's just equilibriumnutrition.com/immunity. You can find all those products there. You can go to stephencabral.com/virus. That's where I kind of teach you all the different protocols. I share with you the different dosages for children and adults. I also give conventional medicine recommendations based on the latest research if you have a loved one in the hospital. So I really try to be as unbiased as possible. Again, you can always use any products by any brand that you trust. The goal is education. If we educate people, I'm telling you right now, we can overcome almost anything. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.